In the shadowed depths of the Sierra Madre, long after the Apache Wars ended in 1886, the Bronco Apache, ghostly survivors, haunted ranchers with silent raids and mystic terror. A bloodied relic whispers of their vengeance and unbreakable spirit. How did these last warriors defy extinction? Join Frontier Chronicles to unravel a saga of brutal ambushes, cursed vows, and a legacy that still echoes in the mountains. Hey folks, Jake Harlan here with Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the unforgiving Sierra Madre Occidental, where jagged peaks and shadowed canyons hid the last free Apache, known as Bronco Apache, well into the 1920s, decades after the world believed the Apache Wars ended with Geronimo's 1886 surrender, per D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. These elusive warriors, survivors of centuries of bloodshed, struck terror into Mexican ranchers and American hunters with their silent raids and ghostly presence, per Neil Goodwin's The Apache Diaries. Their ability to vanish into the mountains made them legends, per S.C. Gwynn's Empire of the Summer Moon. Today, we unravel their mysterious survival, defying extinction in a brutal wilderness. A hidden relic will spark questions. Let's stalk the shadows of their fearsome legacy. After Geronimo's surrender, most Chiricahua and Mescalero Apache were forced onto reservations, but a small group, estimated at 50 to 100, fled south to the Sierra Madre, per Goodwin. By the 1900s, these Bronco Apache became the ultimate holdouts, evading Mexican rurales, U.S. scouts, and bounty hunters, per Brown. Their homeland, a maze of cliffs, caves, and arid valleys, was a fortress no army could conquer. They raided ranches for cattle, horses, and supplies, striking at night and leaving no trace, per ethnographic accounts. In 1918, near Nacari Chico, a raid killed 3 ranchers and stole 20 cattle, with the attackers vanishing into the mountains, per historical records. Their stealth, mimicking owl hoots or coyote calls, moving under moonlight, made them seem like spirits, chilling locals who felt watched, per Gwynn. Mexican villagers lived in fear, whispering of Apache witches who could summon fog, curse pursuers, or blend into stone, per oral histories cited in the Apache Diaries. Parents warned children to avoid the forests, fearing kidnappings, a tactic Apache used to bolster their numbers, per Brown. In 1920, near Casas Grandes, a rancher's wife vanished with her infant, only for tracks to disappear at a cliff's edge, fueling tales of supernatural escape, per Goodwin. The Broncos' survival relied on their knowledge of every hidden spring and cave, allowing them to outlast pursuers who starved or died of thirst, per Gwynn. A 1922 Mexican posse, chasing raiders, found only abandoned fires and false trails, returning empty-handed and shaken, per historical records. This mystique amplified their terror. Ranchers paid a tax of livestock to avoid Apache wrath, knowing pursuit meant death, per Goodwin. In 1923, near the Bavispe River, a Mexican scout stumbled on a broken arrowhead, etched with Moon's Whisper. Uncovered in 1930 and dismissed as debris, Apache elders claimed it marked a raid where Broncos ambushed a posse, killing 6 with arrows from unseen perches, per oral histories. A Mescalero elder, Silent Fong, whispered, "The mountains hide our steps, and the moon guards our blades." The Broncos' ability to strike and vanish, combined with tales of their spiritual power, made them a boogeyman of the Sierra Madre, per Brown. How did these Apache survive against all odds? What did that arrowhead conceal? Whose whisper haunted the night? Hey folks, Jake Harlan back with Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the treacherous Sierra Madre, where the Bronco Apache, ghosts of the Apache Wars, struck terror into Mexican ranchers in the 1920s with raids that left blood and fear in their wake, per D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Last time, we saw these Chiricahua and Mescalero holdouts survive as phantoms, outwitting pursuers with stealth and mystic dread, per Neil Goodwin's The Apache Diaries. Today, we dive into their brutal clashes with locals, culminating in the 1927 attack on the Fimbres family that sparked a vengeful manhunt, per historical records. A forgotten trap will spark questions. Let's chase the Apache's deadly shadow. By the 1920s, the Bronco Apache, numbering perhaps 50 to 100, were a dwindling but fearsome force in the Sierra Madre, per Goodwin. Their raids on ranches near Nacari Chico and Casas Grandes were surgical, cattle stolen, supplies vanished, and occasionally lives taken, per Brown. In 1924, a raid near Bavispe killed 2 ranchers, their bodies left with arrows as a warning, yet no tracks led to the attackers, per ethnographic accounts. The Apaches' tactics, striking under cover of darkness, using false trails, and mimicking animal calls, made pursuit futile, per S.C. Gwynn's Empire of the Summer Moon. Locals whispered of demonios de la Sierra, believing the Apache could summon spirits to shield them, amplifying their terror, per oral histories. The 1927 attack on the Fimbres family marked a turning point. Francisco Fimbres, his wife Maria, their son Geraldo, and daughter were traveling a narrow trail near Nacari Chico when disaster struck, per Goodwin. As Maria and 3-year-old Geraldo rode ahead, Apache raiders, possibly led by a warrior named Juan, ambushed from behind a boulder. Accounts vary, some say a gunshot felled Maria, others claim Apache women dragged her from her horse, stabbing her with knives, per historical records. Geraldo was taken, vanishing into the mountains. Francisco, protecting his daughter, retreated, only to return and find Maria's bloodied body, per oral histories. His grief turned to rage, vowing to hunt every Apache, per Goodwin. This attack, likely retaliation for a 1915 incident where Fimbres helped capture an Apache girl, ignited a blood feud, per the Apache diaries. The Apaches' brutality was matched by their cunning. In 1928, a Mexican posse chasing raiders near Casas Grandes fell into a trap, a narrow canyon where rocks rained from above, killing 4, per Brown. A survivor found a shattered deer antler, etched with serpent's jaw. Discovered in 1932 and dismissed as a trinket, Apache elders claimed it marked a trap where Juan's band crushed pursuers, per oral histories. A Chiricahua elder, Ghost Wind, whispered, "The cliffs bite for us." The Bronco's ability to turn terrain into a weapon and vanish like specters kept them untouchable, per Gwynn. Why did the Apache target the Fimbres? What did that antler hide? Whose jaw crushed the trail? Hey folks, Jake Harlan back with Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the Sierra Madre's labyrinth of canyons and cliffs, where the Bronco Apache, ghosts of a lost war, evaded relentless pursuers in the 1920s and 1930s, per D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Last time, we saw their brutal raid on the Fimbres family in 1927, sparking Francisco Fimbres' vengeful quest to reclaim his son, per Neil Goodwin's The Apache Diaries. Their cunning traps and terrain mastery made them untouchable, per S.C. Gwynn's Empire of the Summer Moon. Today, we track Fimbres' desperate expeditions and the Apache's elusive defiance, outwitting posses with supernatural skill. A hidden ritual will spark questions. Let's hunt the shadows. After the 1927 murder of his wife Maria and kidnapping of his son Geraldo, Francisco Fimbres became a man possessed, organizing over 8 expeditions into the Sierra Madre between 1927 and 1930, per Goodwin. His posses, often 10 to 20 ranchers, scoured rugged trails near Nacari Chico, but found only cold camps and false tracks, per historical records. The Apache, led by figures like Juan, used their knowledge of the terrain, caves, hidden springs, narrow passes, to vanish, per Brown. In 1928, a posse near Bavispe followed Apache tracks that led to a cliff's edge, only to find them erased by wind, leaving 6 men spooked and whispering of Apache sorcery, per ethnographic accounts. Locals believed the Broncos communed with spirits to cloak their movements, amplifying their terror, per Gwynn. Fimbres' desperation grew. Advised by Lupe, a former Apache captive, to wait lest the Apache kill Geraldo, he ignored her, driven by guilt and rage, per the Apache Diaries. In 1929, he led a posse that found a fresh Apache camp, still warm with embers, but a sudden rockslide, likely triggered by hidden warriors, killed 2 men, per Brown. The survivors fled, shaken by tales of Apache witches who could summon the earth's wrath, per oral histories. In 1930, near Casas Grandes, a scout found a charred bone pendant, etched with Star's Veil. Dismissed in 1935 as a trinket, Apache elders claimed it marked a ritual where Juan's band prayed for invisibility, per Goodwin. A Chiricahua elder, Night Raven, whispered, "The stars shield our path." Fimbres' failure, despite his fury, proved the Apache's unmatched elusiveness, per Gwyn. How did the Apache vanish so completely? What did that pendant protect? Whose veil hid the hunted? Hey folks, Jake Harlan here, wrapping up our saga with frontier chronicles from the haunted Sierra Madre, where the Bronco Apache, last of the free Apache, fought to survive against all odds into the 1930s, per D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. We've tracked their terror, silent raids, the brutal Fimbres attack, and Francisco's futile manhunts, per Neil Goodwin's The Apache Diaries. Their ghostly elusiveness made them legends, per S. C. Gwyn's Empire of the Summer Moon. Today, we reflect on their enduring legacy, the cost of their defiance, and whispers of their survival. A cursed vow will haunt you, let's face the final echoes. By 1930, Francisco Fimbres' vengeance peaked, culminating in a bloody 1930 clash near Casas Grandes, where his posse killed Apache Juan and 2 women, scalping them in a desperate bid to intimidate the Broncos, per Goodwin. But this act backfired. Days later, Geraldo's tortured body was found, a shallow grave marking the Apache's brutal retaliation, per historical records. Fimbres, broken by loss, continued his hunt, with reports of a 1933 expedition killing a dozen Apache, though accounts are muddled, per Brown. By 1935, sightings of the Broncos dwindled, leading many to believe they were exterminated, per the Apache Diaries. Yet, their legacy of resistance, outlasting Spanish, Mexican, and American campaigns, remains unmatched, per Gwyn. The Apache's survival tactics, living off sparse game, raiding discreetly, blending into towns, kept them alive, per Goodwin. Their spiritual beliefs, tying them to the mountains, fueled their defiance, per ethnographic accounts. In 1937, Norwegian explorer Helga Ingstad found a fresh Apache camp, hinting at their persistence, per oral histories. In 1938, Mescalero elders reported Apache visitors speaking Spanish, suggesting some assimilated or survived in secret, per the Apache Diaries. In 1948, anthropologist Tom Hinton met men claiming Chiricahua descent near Nacari Chico, wearing buckskin, per historical records. In 2025, Apache descendants honor this resilience, preserving traditions despite centuries of loss, per native scholarship. In 1934, near Bavisp, a rancher found a tattered cloth, etched with Wind's Curse. Dismissed in 1940 as a rag, elders claimed it sealed a vow, "Our spirit haunts the conquerors," per oral histories. This belief, fueling raids and rituals, made every canyon a threat, per Brown. Did the Broncos vanish, assimilate, or still linger? Their legacy teaches resilience against impossible odds. What does that curse still whisper? Whose shadow stalks the Sierra Madre? Drop your thoughts below, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell for more Frontier Chronicles.